Hi guys, we're moving on to emergency action plan. Okay, this whole chapter is about preparing for an emergency, and that could be anything from bad weather or somebody going into cardiac arrest. Okay, so going on to our new slides. Okay, we start with emergency action plan being activated by a sports medicine team. Okay, remember that's usually going to be an athletic trainer, a coach, or hopefully if there's a team physician there, that they're the ones that activate it. Okay, it kind of just depends if this is a game day, if this is a practice, depending on who's there. All right, it's going to make a big difference. Emergency action plan is also commonly referred to as a crisis plan, okay, because you only activate this if this is a dire emergency, okay, it is a crisis. Important things for you to understand is that these crisis plans or emergency action plans are used in the event of a true emergency, okay? Everybody that is going to be activating that emergency action plan is first aid and CPR certified, okay, which is big because it's not going to matter if it's just one coach or if there are coaches, athletic trainers, team physicians, a nurse. Everybody involved is going to be first aid and CPR certified. The primary concern of dealing with a situation where an emergency action plan is needed is that you keep the patient or patients breathing, okay? That you want to make sure that their heart continues to beat and they still have normal breathing, okay? And so that's kind of what this main emergency action plan is used for, okay? It's really important that you have practiced your emergency action plan and everybody involved knows the proper plan before this event ever occurs, okay? That's kind of why we do fire drills for school. We have fire drills and lockdown drills and bad weather drills, all in case they're ever truly needed, okay? We practice them while we're in a normal condition, and that way if it ever is needed, everybody knows what is expected of them. So things that are going to be included in what we call our emergency action plan, okay? You have to have a specific plan for every field, court, locker room, anywhere that you could potentially have these athletes needing your assistance, okay? So for one particular sport, that could be a practice field, wherever they play their games, and a locker room, maybe a weight room, okay? There's several different areas where somebody could need assistance, okay? If there's special equipment involved, like in football or maybe baseball or softball, and you have to remove a helmet or get the face mask off so you can reach their airway, who's going to be in charge of doing that? What kind of supplies do you need for that to occur? All that has to be arranged before an emergency takes place. Making sure that you have access to a phone. I know everybody has a cell phone, but what if it's dead? What if you don't have service? Where's your nearest landline? Who's going to call 911? What information are they going to relay? Okay, that's really key because the quicker that you can call 911 and get further medically trained people to help, the better off that person's going to be. Keys to gates. What gates is the ambulance, the paramedics going to come into? Is it locked already, or does it need to be unlocked? Where's the key? Okay. And other key things like assigning somebody to ride to the hospital, all right? Who's going to be in charge of contacting this student's parents if their parents aren't there, okay? All those things have to be established in an emergency action plan. So like we previously said, who's involved? Most of the time in our setting, athletic trainers and your coaches are going to be the main ones involved in an emergency action plan. If it happens to be a Friday night varsity football game and there's a team doctor there, perfect, okay? But that's more of a luxury. They're not always there. If it's during the school day, we'll see our nurses being involved, okay? But that isn't really always going to be the case. And then we call 911 and allow the paramedics, the EMTs, to come and help us in our situation. Now, between all those people, who's going to be in charge? It's going to be whoever has the most medical training, okay? Between a coach and an athletic trainer, the athletic trainer would win out, All right, between the athletic trainer and a doctor, the doctor would be the person with the most medical training. Okay, that's going to be important, okay, because whoever has the most first aid and CPR training is going to be the person that's leading this emergency action plan, directing everybody else. I'm providing the care for the athlete. You're calling 911. You are going to ride in the ambulance.
It's 12 o'clock.
They're going to be the ones running the emergency action plan. A big one is how to activate. So you've assigned somebody in your emergency action plan. You've assigned them the duty to call 911. All right. Coach Brown, he is in charge of calling 911. What is he going to say? Okay. There is certain information that you do want to relay, such as the name of the victim, how old the victim is, where are you specifically? If we say Louisville High School, that could be anywhere. Okay. Being very specific. We are in the boys basketball locker room by the arena. What's the address to the school? It's 1098 West Main Street. Okay. Being as specific as possible. What care is being given to that person? Is somebody able to perform CPR? Is he bleeding? Okay. All those details have to be given out over that phone call. Other big jobs that we have during this emergency action plan is crowd control, okay? And depending on your situation and who you have available, coaches are always really good at this. Any administrators that we have around, that would be helpful as well. But if you don't have any of that, your team captains or somebody that's very authoritative with your group of athletes, okay? Somebody that can help keep, whether it's other other athletes or adults, allowing space for the people to give care or for the paramedics and the ambulance to come on scene. Something else that we have to consider is how you're going to get the athlete off the field, okay? And this depends on lots of things. Are they breathing on their own? Is their arm hurt versus their leg? A lot of things go into this, but you have to kind of have those plans already set in place. So depending on if you're inside or outside, you might have to think about how you're going to get this athlete off. Can you put them on crutches and they crutch off? Do they have to be carried off? Or are you going to leave them right there until the paramedics get there with their gurney and they have to wheel them off? All these things kind of have to go into account. Okay. Keeping in mind with that athlete taking the athlete off the field, if they're being put in an ambulance, somebody needs to go with them. If there's no parent around, another adult is preferred, okay? A coach, maybe an administrator, depending on who's around. But somebody needs to go with that unaccompanied minor, okay? That is very key. Exiting the field and the court, which is your safest route? If there is something blocking that, like a car parked in a fire lane, where's route number 2? Where's route number 3? You kind of have to have those backup plans in place just in case. What if that door is locked and nobody near you has a key? Okay, it's very important that you kind of have these routes predetermined depending on where that injury is. Another term that we see in emergency action plan is triage. Okay, triage is referring to multiple people needing care at one time. So if we have, let's say, a collision on the football field and we have somebody that probably has a broken leg and somebody who has a sprained ankle and somebody who's just got a laceration, which one is going to take precedence? Now everything's going to be different. Is the broken leg visible? Is it sticking out through the skin, or is the laceration so deep that they're losing a lot of blood? Everything's going to kind of take into account depending on the situation itself. But triage means that you're taking care of multiple people at one time, and whoever is the most severely injured is going to be the one that gets the care first. Okay, this is a situation where maybe athletic training students could step in, since they are first aid and CPR certified, to help with wound care. All right, using coaches, using other athletes. Okay, just so care is given, but you're giving your medical attention to the most severely injured person first. And some other things to consider: you need to have things documented. All right, I know in the event of an emergency that sounds kind of ridiculous, but It needs to be documented who's giving what care to whom, okay, just because in case something comes back later, okay. Keep in mind of your different facilities, okay. Like we said in the opening, we have teams that go from locker rooms to weight rooms to back to the gym to running outside on the bleachers, and everywhere that team is can be an injury waiting to happen, all right, and somebody needing emergency care. Kind of obstacles that we have to deal with, we do see this quite a bit, is cars that are parked in fire lanes, or they're parked blocking a door where potentially your ambulance is going to need to come in, and that creates a big problem, okay, especially if that's going to be the quickest, fastest way to get that patient to the ambulance. Bad weather. If you're outside, where are you putting everybody? What if there's an injury that's caused the person to be on the ground and it starts lightning? What are you going to do? Okay, all that kind of has to be taken into account. And that's kind of what our whole emergency action plan is about. So we do have a project with this assignment where you're going to create your own. So the big thing here is making sure that you are taking into account what needs to be done, who is the most qualified person to do that, and how can things run smoothly in the event that this plan is actually ever needed, okay? So keep in mind that emergency action plan, just like our exposure control plan, is used to help keep everybody safe and help things run smoothly in the event of an actual emergency.